virtual play with real people and real stakes, since the winner of this match does get to qualify to the top 8. The loser does get one last chance in today for round 5. And as we see things headed down, so I can see a Ragavan in play. On the other side, we have Urza Saga Expedition map. Cedric, what do you take stock, I think, of the hands here, but what do you feel about the opening hands here and about where we're going to see?
Well, Brad's hand is excellent. So there's a Thoughtseize. Ragavan is hitting. It just hit an Amulet Vigor, which is not something that Brad can really utilize, but it's one less amulet Arya has access to, which is going to be problematic. But Brad has a nice clock, a Thoughtseize, an Aggress Rampage, which is kind of medium in this matchup. But Ragavan, Dothy Voidwalker, and Thoughtseize leading the charge. We could very easily, Eduardo, see a Voidwalker use the treasure, Thoughtseize, you take your Titan, and then put a Titan into play next turn, and effectively over. So,
well, right. That's the thing, is we got Scapeshift in hand, but that takes some time. Arya did take some time to mention in chat how the combo works with Scapeshift and an Amulet of Vigor. Essentially 4 lands. Before we had Scapeshift for 7 lands. Then we had 6 with Dryad. Now we're down to just needing 4 lands. Is apparently sufficient. I believe it was, I'm going to read the message. It was double field, Lotus Field, Tulare West, Bounce Land. You get Aftermath Analyst, get back all that mana, get Titan, get Port of Carfell, and Circus.
Go off from there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was unaware of this. This makes me want to see that happen even more now, because I did not know that was a thing that you could do. There's a lot of things with Arya's deck I am clearly unaware that one can do. So I'm hoping some of that comes to fruition instead of just getting Rakdos scammed here, because that's not fun. But it depends on what side of it you're on, I guess.
No, you're right. If people are on the Thoughtseize side, but I guess here, Cedric, as we see a Bezeju hit play, and Scapeshift's 4 lands. So the question is, how fast is Brad Nelson's clock? Can Arya get to turn 4 essentially with an Amulet of Vigor in play, or are we gonna have to look elsewhere because not gonna get there in time?
I think not going to get there in time. Now, I am curious what's going to be selected here with this Thoughtseize, because if Brad knows about the Scapeshift stuff that you're talking about here, one could argue that Scapeshift is the selection. However, I think the easy traditional selection is, of course, Primeval Titan in this situation, and you could exile it via the Voidwalker and then cast it and kind of go from there. But yeah, if I were in Brad's spot right now, and I'm not Brad, obviously, but if I were in Brad's spot right now, I would not be aware of the fact that I could die to Scapeshift if lands on the battlefield. Amulet. Brad is going to go pretty traditional here, Eduardo, by taking the Primeval Titan, which makes a lot of sense to me.
One thing I do like here, by the way, is I remember in the pre-show, we were talking about it, and Brad's like, "Oh, I don't have to figure things out because, anyways, when the combo starts, I'm dead." I kind of really want to see the hubris of it. I know it's probably not going to happen, given the texture of this game, but it would be very fun. As we see here, of course, the Thoughtseize, Titan, and Dotty Voidwalker didn't attack, which probably means we're going to see Primeval Titan on the other side of the battlefield. And I guess one of the nice plays, Cedric, here would have been something like, Otawara would be really funny to get back your own Primeval Titan, but I don't think we have time here, right?
I think the time is not on Arya's side for that. I do agree that it would be humorous and potentially something that could shift the tide of this game. I am finding it to be rather unlikely. Prime time here for Brad, a card that he is not, I would say, not known for.
No, as played since it's been printed, and I don't think I've ever seen him play that card. So no, that's probably correct. Maybe played in a limited once, but that might have been it. Now, what does Arya kind of need to do here? Need to draw? Like, we see this Urza Saga is probably going to get an Amulet of Vigor. I think spoiler alert, no spoilers here. And we have Aggress Rampage, and it looks like Brad has 8 damage, and Arya has 16 life. So 2 turns. My question to you, Cedric, is how does Arya kind of engineer the situation to kind of try to have more than 2 turns?
That is a difficult question to answer. I think it starts with, okay, well, Crumbling Vestige is going to be the land that's found. Good one alongside Amulet of Vigor, of course, but it might involve something like a Boreal Grazer, which isn't the best chump blocker in a spot like this when the opponent has Lightning Bolts. But I am admittedly struggling to think of how to get to at least 4 mana before the game does end, especially with the Saga, which of course is very powerful, but you're exchanging a land for the very powerful Amulet of Vigor. So it's effectively setting you back a land drop, which you care about when it comes to exactly Scapeshift.
So yeah, that's the problem, right? That's why I think the Crumbling Vestige was taken there, right? You need to make actual lands, but Urza Saga's gone. Um, Honestly, I do wonder here. Do you? I don't think you Summoner's Pack for a Burial Grazer, but is
Mm-mm.
no,
Mm-mm. No.
no. Oh well. Yeah,
When
I
you have,
mean, probably not.
let's see.
Sorry.
Well, I don't know. Let me see. We've got a friendly friend in the chat here, Carmen Klomperin. So Vestige, Razor. Yeah, I think a land short, right? So Vestige gives you some mana. This is
Oh, this
four.
is.
Wait, hold
Oh,
on.
wait. No, this is interesting. Scapeshift now gets you 6 mana because you can get 2 Lotus Field.
Oh my god,
Um,
that's a Titan right now. Okay, yep. See, this is what I mean. I don't know how this deck works. I don't get it.
I mean, we were talking about it, the hubris, right? Like, had you taken the I mean, to be fair, the scape should would have made your clock horrible and all that. I mean, no, because you'd attack for free. It wouldn't change the clock fundamentally. You would have had an attack in. And there's a lightning bolt. So the hubris, I guess, is paying off, right? If you take scape shift there, because there's summoners pack and Titan, right? So I think Brad saw both of those. So like you're taking a card that is essentially identical with your Fotsies, and probably didn't believe that the scape shift would do this.
Yeah, I didn't either. So okay, so now is it well, okay, is it Summoner's Pact for Lightning or is it Summoner's Pact for uh Aftermath Analyst? I think it's the Analyst, right?
It has to be, right? Because there's no like the Titan wouldn't get there, right? You only have one more Lotus Field in the deck. And I mean you'd have to give it haste and I don't think it's Titan here. The Aftermath Analyst, let's see what happens if we do that though. Do you actually get anywhere? I don't think so, right? Because
I
you get a
don't
bunch of
think
mana,
so.
but it
Yeah.
doesn't do anything
There's no
fundamentally.
there's no payoff, right? There's no like Teleria West in hand or anything like that. So yeah, you have 6 mana. Then if you get Titan here, you can of course go get like Boros Garrison, Slayer Stronghold, give your Titan haste and vigilance. It's an 8/6 trigger. Um, go get some more lands to pay for the pact. But I'm not. I'm ready to be surprised. Okay, so it's Aftermath Analyst.
Oh, well,
Oh wait, there's
Aftermath Analyst.
Mills.
I mean, there's yes, there's Mirror Pool in the deck. There's Port of Carfell. Is that what we're going for? Port of
Right.
Carfell Titan.
Okay, so it depends on what gets milled over, right?
I mean, I'm guessing so because nothing in that graveyard looks like it's gonna save our. But no, yeah, if you get the Titan there, you're right. If you give it haste, I don't think that's enough because you're not getting anywhere. Whereas with this, I mean, it's a high roll, but if you roll the highest, then you get there. The lightning
Mm.
bolt though from Brad.
With the trigger on the stack. Pretty smart. Pretty smart.
I don't think there's any coming back. This time we're because we got a summoners back to actually wait, no, because you get both Lotus Fields back, so you have to sacrifice.
Yeah, you got to sacrifice your stuff.
So the problem is you gotta sacrifice 4 lands, and currently I see 5 in the graveyard. So that would leave you with Lotus Field to pay for Summoners Pack. That doesn't feel like we're getting where we need to.
We are inclined to agree. Yes.
All right. So this was, to be fair, this was interesting. This was a eye-opening lesson in you know, I think one of the lessons I've had from, and I think you're the same from playing Magic the longest time, is if there's a card in your opponent's deck and it doesn't make sense why it would be there normally, just take the card.
Yeah.
Something's wrong, right?
I mean, it feels that way. It definitely feels that way.
All right.
It's just
Well, Brad
I,
takes it down thanks to that lightning bolt there, which we didn't expect really, I think, that to be the end of the match, but there we go.
yeah, and I generally expect Lightning Bolt to target a Boreal Grazer or the face, not Aftermath Analyst, and have a real impact. So again, this is me kind of learning, which for as long as you and I have been playing Magic, it's still fun that we can see some weird things happen and be like, I don't actually know what's going to happen.
No, yeah, I agree, and I think that's one of the big reasons I like what I like to call large modern, like exploring modern, exploring pioneer sometimes, and limited is because that this I think that discovery process is incredible. Honestly, the fact that it comes back set after set, every limited set is just like for me, it's wonderful to do that discovery process. But as we see here, the sideboards, those lightning bolts and fatal pushes came out against you, Cedric. Spoiler alert: they also come out against Arya,
Hmm.
as well
Yeah.
as Fables of the Mirror Breaker, obviously Blood Moons and Magus of the Moon coming in. I'm trying to spot other things. I see engineered explosives, Liliana of the Veil on Arya's side. I didn't quite catch it, but I'm looking at that sideboard, and I think it would have been a Veil of Summer and two Dismembers coming in at best guess. Anything else appear to you, Cedric? There?
Nothing else really stands out to me, no. Because this is such a combo deck, you don't want to dilute it too much. You kind of want to leave most of your pieces intact. And now we look at the opening hands here, Eduardo, and Brad's is way less good than it was last time around.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're seeing a mulligan. What do you think of Arya's hand, by the way? Do you just go with it? You're like, you're gonna grief and not dead after all. Taste it.
Yeah. So this is the question you have to ask yourself when you play against Rakdos Evoke, right? Which is, do I want to keep a land heavy hand that looks like this, where I don't have an avenue to really anything except for hoping the top of my deck is kind, which sometimes works against a deck like this, other times it doesn't. If Arya decides to keep this hand, I totally get it. Um, it even has, it has Passager for Blood Moon, it has Otawara as a piece of interaction. So it's got some positives going for it. Also a little bit of mana acceleration. So sure, I don't hate it.
Yeah, and the hand's kept. And I think the only thing really lacking is something like a Nurza Saga, but we got Teleria West for our Fred. Honestly, apart from Teleria West, this looks like Pioneer Lotus Field to me.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like effectively that exact deck, which talk about a deck I can't figure out. There's one. I can't play that deck to save my life.
Yeah, it basically plays the world's worst rituals. That's because that's what you get when you don't go back in Magic's history.
Yeah. I never draw pour over the pages with the deck, so maybe it's just not for me.
That's fair. It's not for me either. I prefer being the person losing to the deck, apparently. But I'm loving this, by the way. The Thoughtseize from Brad. Brad also like probably. Oh, look at this hand from Brad. There's a Blood Moon and some air. Actually, oh wow. Oh yeah, the top of the deck. Wow,
Yeah.
beautiful.
This is what it can look like, right? And this is why you keep a hand like this. And the feeling of thought seizing a hand like that is always interesting, right? Because you thought seize your opponent, and you go, okay, there's nothing going on there. But you can't thought seize the top of the deck. So that's brutal, is what that is. Really
Uh,
tough.
Something interesting to me, by the way, is I mean, it makes sense to play the Amulet of Vigor here because of the double up. Because I think having two in play is better than one in hand. But obviously, there's a consideration with Angra's Rampage. But this way, I mean, Arya gets to untap with at least an Amulet of Vigor and a Teleria West in hand and a Lotus
Hmm.
Field. That's a lot.
That's a ton. That's a ton. But it is very important to keep these amulets in check whenever you play against amulet based decks. So definitely need to kill one of them.
And as we see Slayer Stronghold join the hand, that's more lands. Here, Cedric, what are we looking like? There's no Fred on Brad's side. We
No.
got it's not even like the calm before the storm. There's no storm. There's nothing coming up. So, I mean, Arya's just passing the turn. Does this make sense to you?
Yeah, this actually makes a lot of sense because if we have the privilege of seeing Brad's hand, obviously, and Arya does not, but you can deduce what's going on in Brad's hand pretty simply, right? Which is you didn't play Ragavan on one, okay? You didn't play Voidwalker or Grief on turn 1, 2, or 3, okay? So your hand is some combination of Magus of the Moon or Blood Moon, almost assuredly, because otherwise, why'd you keep the hand that you
Oh,
kept? Okay?
this doesn't visage you end of turn.
No, there's
Wait,
no reason to.
put the Lotus Field in play.
Yep.
So good.
So free
Yeah.
Lotus Field, which is completely nuts, which means that you can transmute now that Slayer West if you want to, or however you want to move forward this turn. But yeah, no rush to besate you and all benefit there.
By the way, I do like one of the things about these surveil lands I do want to touch on is I love how much they. One of the things with Bezeju is it does feel sometimes a little too free, not like extremely right, a little bit like this is too easy to have. So I like the surveil lands as kind of a way to punish that, so to speak, as we saw Rocket's feeder there. Wow, no, Donnie Voidwalker plus Grief. This is kind of nice. Obviously, not gonna play anything off the Voidwalker, but this shuts down the graveyard shenanigans, and puts actual power on the board.
Yeah, I mean, this is now actually a game. It feels like, as far as pressure is concerned, because there's 7 power on the battlefield now, and 3 of it is Shadow, 4 of it is Menace, so all of it's difficult to block, and it doesn't take long. And of course, depending on what Brad draws, there could be added pressure the following turn. So game could turn around in a hurry.
Yeah. And here, by the way, this is, Teleria West into I'm gonna guess Summoner's Pact here. Um Hopefully it's a lucky guess. I do wonder here, what do you actually get with Summoner's Pact, Cedric? Do you aim for the Aftermath Analyst line? No, knowing that Brad has no cards in hand? Or do you go to the Primeval Titan, or do you keep it in hand and wait for Primeval Titan next?
Well, there you go, asking me this difficult question about a deck I don't know a ton about. My lean in general is that's a good draw. My lean was going to be Primeval Titan. Probably wrong, but that would have been my lean. But my lean
Right.
is always Primeval Titan, and I feel like I'm wrong when it comes to this deck.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because technically, this isn't a complicated line when you're playing normal Amulet Titan, because you know what you're getting. Whereas here, you were like, the question is fair. It's not actually that easy. And I mean, now we're talking about a clock. Now, our Broil Grazer together can block 1 grief for 1 turn at least.
Yeah.
So interestingly, Brad goes down from a kind of 3-turn clock to a 4-turn one, right?
Yeah, it's
7 times
it's definitely time for some amount of double blocking here. Just start getting in the way of this grief. Hope that Brad's draw steps stink. Last turn wasn't bad. Okay, well, look at this. So look who's so cool. Thoughtseize your pact and Magus of the Moon your face. So cool.
Yeah, and I mean, Magus of the Moon started seeing more play because it is specifically pretty strong against Amulet Titan. After all, I mean, before you had Blood Moon, then Visaiju comes around, and it's like, well, this thing's a liability. So I might as well. I mean, literally a liability. We saw Lotus Field come play for free. But as a result, we're now seeing, this play here of Magus of the Moon, and now it's not just a clock; it's clock and disruption, which is a huge upgrade.
Yeah, that's the 1-2 punch that Brad is looking for to put a close on this game. And I am not sure now what the draw steps are here for Arya that are good. In some
Ooh.
spots, Boseiju would be good because it would take care of a Blood Moon, but it's not Blood Moon, as you mentioned. It's Magus of the Moon, and the diversification of the Blood Moon style effects here from Brad and for other Rakdos of Oak players. You see why they do that, because Boseiju handles a lot of problems, but it doesn't handle that.
Yeah. And the thing is, Cedric, I was looking at the outs. The only one available was Dismember, which is everybody's favorite Need for Rex in the state.